the numbers, any of the numbers that are personnel related, that I figure, like the Social Security, Medicare, and all that kind of stuff, if any of those changed, I plug them in on our side.
Okay.
So if for some reason,
We're not matching.
it's not an exact match, it's because of those things, it's because of the group insurance and the Social Security, Medicare, and all that stuff. But everything else is as requested.
Okay, great.
I'm trying to do the one list for all that stuff. Just not-
All right, well. As always, I would imagine we won't even talk about group insurance or Medicare or anything, you just plug that in.
What I have done on the group insurance, I think that Pam is still working on getting those final solid numbers for 2020.
Yeah,
They said that 8% increase would be the worst case scenario. Absolute worst case scenario, so that is what I have figured in. I'm hopeful that we can come back to these numbers and decrease those a little bit when we find out another, a good solid number on them.
okay. Well, first line, of course, that I'm looking at would be the salary and wages. Looks like we're up 50,000.
What department are you in?
Tax assessor.
I'm sorry, the tax assessors. Hey, Jolene, I didn't see you
Fine, everything else is
there.
fine.
Yeah.
The representative of the citizens, right?
Hey, exactly.
I'm hurt.
You're a representative of the press.
That's fair.
Okay. As I understand it, this would be going to the lower, assessors
This would actually be across the board.
across the board.
Yes,
Okay, we gave a really good chunk last year. across the
yes.
board.
The year before, actually, we've done it in two phases. So the first phase was to the lower employees, and then the second phase was to catch some of those upper employees. So
Second phase being last year.
last year, yes, sir. So this merit increase would be across the board increase. As you know, we've struggled in the past with keeping employees. You know, we were educating them, we were losing them to other counties, and at some points just to other jobs in some offices within the county. So what the Board of Assessors is doing this year is they're looking at a merit increase for across the board. The way that they've structured this increase, they would like to be able to decide, being an independent board, how they're going to apply these to the employees. You know, we've made an effort in the past, as we've talked about. As you know, we used to use contract service, pro services to help, you know, work with the office to educate the staff, to train them. This year, for 2019, the staff handled in-house all of the pricing without the assistance of GMAS as far as the urban land. We still do use them for the timber extraction, and we'll continue to want to use them for that. But, you know, over the past couple of years, we've spent, you know, a little over $100,000 in pro services, just working to help train the staff, keep the staff, educate the staff, and we're finally seeing some stability in the staff. We're not seeing that turnover. We were easily losing 3 people a year. You know, now we're to a point where we're keeping those employees, and it's important. You know, they hold a special skill set that comes from the education with the Department of Revenue, and it's not something, you know, every time we have to put a new person in, we have to start from scratch. So we have that educational cost, we have that time, that investment, learning the county, learning their job. I mean, it takes a full 12 months, you know, for an employee to actually just make it through all the cycles that we go through.
It's a good idea, the way that you're talking about doing essentially this would be a 3-year period, to start with the, higher levels, and then the lower levels, or whichever way we're going, and then going across the board. In the same sense that you're looking at that, particularly in the year that you're looking at to try to raise the lower level folks, I've got the same situation countywide. And we've got a lot of folks out there that are at $9 an hour. It ought to be at 12, 13, and we're seeing the same kind of turnover. And I'm not saying it's won't recruit,
Right.
but I do want you to understand that I also have the responsibility to take these lower folks and try to raise them up too. So and I haven't seen all the revenue figures yet, but, you know, it's kind of all going to be on the revenue is.
Exactly.
That's where we end up with that. Carlene, do you have any questions on that?
No, I do hear, unfortunately, the same thing with turnover, and I feel for you on that, because I hate going through all of that time and education and all of that, and that is an important part also, so.
It is, and, we're unfortunately one of those departments that, we also get, all of our instructions from the Department of Revenue as far as if we don't, we have to stay on a passing level. I know you weren't here during this, but, we recently had to overcome a consent order, so, what we're trying to do, what the board's trying to do, is just, keep stability within the staff, within employees, because we know that made an impact in the past, not having people there to get the work done and be able to complete the job. So we would appreciate your consideration on that.
Well, one of the things that we had to look at with that consent order, in the end, it would have been less expensive for us to have just paid the fine than to go through all the steps of that consent order. The problem with paying the fine is you don't fix anything.
Absolutely.
So we chose to go the more expensive route and try to fix things.
Yes.
So I guess I would ask, in your opinion, with what was done with the consent order, do you feel that that will, to a great extent, fix the problems that led to the fine?
Well, I think it's already starting to show. We just had we're coming up on our 2019 digest review, but, we've continued to be able to pass on our Department of Audit studies. Of course, 19 is our review year, so we'll start that probably in the next 6 to 9 months. But, we've been able to show that we've made that progress with passing on the Department of Audits. I did also include for you a breakdown of the staff levels, because that was a question. It's always a question, is are we meeting the minimal? We are meeting, the recommended minimal is 5 employees. Now, we know it's not a county this size, that's just not feasible. So I have 6 real appraisers that do the real property. And they average around 5,000 parcels per person. The DOR recommends about 4,000 per parcels per person. So that's why it's really important for us to keep these appraisers, because if we have to start over again, it's really a detriment, to the office and to the county, being able to train somebody up to be able to take on that type of workload. And unfortunately, it is a little bit of a heavy workload. That might be something that, in other counties, it may attract them to switch counties because they may not have as much of a workload. So, but these ladies are doing a great job and they're getting the job done. So.
Charlie, can I ask one thing on that?
Yeah.
The thing she's talking that really concerns me is like the administration clerk, the CUBA appeals administrator, the GS, the mapper, the 2 mappers. We only have 1 mapper. The one is on some sort of medical leave or something. I'm not sure. And she's been gone over 6 months, 7 months.
Close to 6.
So it's a rough thing. And then you get down to your appraisal ones, which the minimum DOR requirements for those buildings is unreal, and when you go take the test at the DOR headquarters, if you don't make 80 on that test you take, you don't get your license. And they can't appraise without a license. And I agree with Teresa, these people at the low levels, like Ashley Mayo there, for example, that's the first person you see when you come in. If she makes a mistake and initiate any paperwork that comes in there, it takes over a year to train her how to do the paperwork, just when somebody comes in there with all the fingers she got in all the pieces of paper. It's just tough to, and now I think Teresa's cross-training one or two of these because you don't have a one mapper. And if people don't have the maps right when they go out to do their appraisals, it's just not right. My thing is the lower level people really need a raise. And I agree with you. And I understand the $9 stuff at the county, which is terrible. It's just unbelievable. I don't see how anybody would even apply. But at the same time, these people are DOR certified. They have to go through a lot of classes and certification, just like the assessors. I mean, they told me, you'll go to school every other year when you get on this thing. I've been to school, 40-hour school every year. It hadn't stopped. So, and those classes, I'm here to tell you, are not easy. They're not easy when you get out of there. They're just tough. And I just take a minuscule thing compared to what an assessor 1, 2, or 3 takes. But I'm just saying those lower level people are really at the threshold of living right and not living right. They're just right on the fine balance. And anything that can be done for these power person, it's just a hard. They have a hard time.
I did want to ask about contract services.
Yes.
Looks like we got a good jump there. What's that?
Yes, so, as you know, we had the aerial photography done back in 2017, and with that contract, we had Flight 1 and Flight 2. So in that amount, and I've printed you out the paperwork there as well. That first one tells you the Flight 2. Yep, the one you have in your hand.
Okay.
Yep, it's got the amount there for the flight.
Right.
And then that's broken over a 3-year period. So we are looking, it's time for us to go ahead and initiate our second flight. As you guys know, especially if you're frequent, or anybody that's frequent users of Q Public, we publish all of that onto our website. It makes a world of difference, not just for our appraisers, but for the public, being able to see those up-to-date aerials. We have a lot of people that rely on that information. So included in there would be the second flight, so the payment for the second flight. And then we're also asking for consideration of a program called Change Finder, and that documentation's in there as well. Change Finder is a add-on application with the aerial photography, and what that's looking for is basically what it says, changes. It's a mathematical aerial photo program that's actually going to look at properties. It's going to dictate, it's going to do outlines of if there's changes to the structure, if there's outbuildings. An example they like to use is, here's a pool in the aerial and now the pool has been filled in. We would find that useful in the field and in-house because there's a lot of properties that are very remote that we may not be able to access. And we have a lot of gated properties around here that we're just not able to obtain access to. So we heavily rely on programs like the aerial and potentially something like Change Finder to look for that additional revenue that we may be missing out there.
And so it keeps track, or it understands what last year was compared to,
Right, what it does is it looks at two flights that are captured. So it would look at our 17th flight, and then if we go ahead and capture this year in 2020, it's going to compare the 2 images. And it's going to look at the 2 images, and it's going to make a sketch outline, and then it's actually going to break it down into a report. And it's going to tell you, based on the report, it's gonna rank its priority of where it thinks these structures need to be reviewed. So it'll tell you absolutely something is here and now it's not, or it may say, you know, this doesn't look right. You need to, you know, go maybe do, of course, do a field check on these, or, you know, maybe it's just off a little bit. So what's neat about this program is it does allow that ability to rank those sketches. So that way you know where to pay attention, where to focus your time, not just having to look at every single sketch. A lot of programs actually don't go to that level of detail. They'll just show you a sketch on top of a structure, and you have to pan through and look around the county. It also has a tracking ability. That way you can track your revenue to see, you know, the missed revenue that's gained. With that program, it also offers a breakdown. It will allow for you to be able to break that $27,000 into 3 years of payments as well.
And that's what's reflected in your budget?
Yes, that's what's reflected. So it's reflecting the 1/3 payment on the aerial photography plus the 1/3 payment of change finder.
And we see that capability, aerial and software, as the future of where this whole appraisal process is going. You know, a number of counties are going to annual flyovers and something like change finder to do the work, literally. We have, still have code and regulation that says we've got to go look at, physically look at a piece of property. But this would make it so much easier if we knew what we were looking for.
So you could actually do it faster?
We could actually
Each
do
trip,
it
each visit
from
would
the office.
be done quicker. Okay. And that still counts as
And
looking at that property?
under code and regulation, we still have to go set a foot on the property once every 3 years. So that's got to evolve also.
But it would allow us to, like we said, an example behind a locked gate where we can only go as far as the gate, we can't gain access in, you know, we could be missing a whole house, we could be missing an addition. When you're out field checking 100 acres, it's easy to, you know, when there's some type of pole sheds or storage buildings off in the woods, you know, it's easy for the appraiser not to be able to visually see those when they're out there. So what this program is designed to do is really to help you not just check the accuracy of your data, but to help you find that revenue that you may be missing. I'm sorry.
I'm looking though at the two projects, and just off the top of my head, 1/3 of the two of them would be roughly $30,000.
Correct.
And yet the contract services proposal is only going up by about $12,000. I assume some of it was already built in, is that?
Well, as you know, we do zero-based budgeting in my department, so we account for every line item. So, you know, based on what services we need for the year and, you know, any type of pricing changes, we average around $60,000 just in our contract service without adding these to it. The previous flight, was right around 17,000. This one's a little bit more, 21,000. So that's what's fluctuating some of those numbers as well. And there could have been, last year we may have had additional costs for, you know, another item. So we did last year have the one-time setup fee with Data Solution for our iPads. So as those figures drop off, I drop them out of the budget too. I don't carry those forward.
No, you know what might be helpful, to see a copy of the revenue gain when you get the report from, you know, for us to see.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, that would be something that the assessors would want to see as well, to be able to track that revenue, because you always want to make sure that when you make an investment, that you're getting a return on your investment. So they can't guarantee you what type of revenue, obviously, you would gain from it, but, you know, they stand behind the fact that you would gain some missing revenue out there.
Yeah.
But they were specifically asked if they could put a figure with it, and they said no.
And the counties that have already implemented this are reporting additional revenue.
If
There's,
they're building and they're adding on, they're doing all kinds of stuff to their properties right now.
Yes.
Are they reporting though enough additional revenue to actually cover the basic expense of the program?
there's only, what, 4 or 5 or 6 counties that have implemented this, and the information is sketchy at best.
Too soon to tell?
Too soon to tell, yeah. Most of them are too soon.
It's a new thing. But I can say on a different note, as far as tracking revenue, I'm not sure that the assessor's office gives the commissioner's office the revenue that the board of assessors approves penalties and fines on a monthly basis. At our last meeting, what was the revenue? $37,000 in fines and penalties just last month. And we get those every month, so, I mean,
He's speaking to the conservation
conservation
breaches.
penalties
As-
and issues.
As you know, even though my office is responsible for initiating those breaches, gathering the data, doing all the paperwork and the field inspections, it can't go into our budget for auditing purposes to show how much our department actually is gaining by doing that, collecting that revenue, so.
Those are probably reflected on the tax commissioners.
They are, for auditing purposes, they have to reflect in the tax commissioners as, I think, other revenue, so.
But in a 12-month period, that's a lot of money and county. Treasury.
I will mention, do you want to go over the capital?
Oh, yeah,
You should have an updated hard copy right there, and they're not necessarily in order of, as they appear, so there was
actually, the
I think I wanted
capital,
mine.
as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, just consists of one vehicle and printer, is that right?
That is correct. I just wanted to let you know, I did have a gentleman come meet with me last week on a new, on a plotter that,
Yeah.
the type of the machine or the manufacturer's kit, KIP. I hadn't heard of that company before, but a gentleman did stop in last week. He was making his rounds. I don't know if he made it over here or not. But they offer a plotter that is a toner version instead of an ink version. And so he gave me a lot of information on that, not the pricing yet, but it does have a leasing ability. So we did put the money in there to, if we just bought out your traditional plotter, just an inkjet plotter. But once I gather some more information, I'll bring that back to see if that's something the county would be interested in, maybe leasing a machine instead of buying a machine outright, so.
Okay.
But we are asking for that consideration. Our plotter, is on its last leg. It's no longer supported by HP, and it's very difficult to even get any of the parts. The belt is, at any point could break, and once it does, then the plotter is essentially dead. So,
And that plotter, while it's a fairly large expense, could be used countywide.
Yeah.
yes, we have been doing some printing lately for Park and Rec, so, that's something, it's an investment, not just for my department, but we never, care to help out any other departments that need printing as well.
I'd like to see the need for the plotter. I would be real interested though in comparing that with the toner version.
Me too, so he's working on some pricing for me, so, that way we can do a comparison. I mean, at least with a lease option, we have that, safety net if something goes wrong, somebody's there, somebody's maintaining it versus paying for one outright. The current plotter we have, if memory serves me, I think we purchased that back in 2003. So it's done very well for its life expectancy.
Yeah, but toner generally is a lot more economical.
Yes, I thought so as well, and there's a lot more of a cost savings there because you don't run the risk of the ink drying up.
Exactly,
so,
although
yeah.
there is a larger upfront cost, but
Yeah.
anyway, I'd be really interested in seeing what he has to say.
Yes, absolutely, and that particular machine he's showing me has scanning capability as well and archiving ability, so that could be something that's obviously very beneficial as we move towards a digital age of scanning. So It'll actually allow you to scan the large plat maps. So it's got a lot more capabilities than your traditional plotter.
Okay. Carleen, do you have anything else? That's all the questions I have.
Okay, do you want to go over the Board of Assessors budget?
Why not?
Okay.
Nothing else.
Actually, I didn't have any questions about the Board of Assessors budget.
Okay.
Carleen, you?
No. Anything you want to say about it? Is any,
You know, currently, again, we do zero-based budgeting with the Board of Assessors budget as well. So this is a reflection of the current board members. So, you know, these figures could change if any of the board members change as far as their education level. So, but as of now, it's built with the current members in place.
And we have one bill term expiring, so I'm sure you would like to.
Well, Bill ain't gonna get out of it, that
He is highly educated, as he stated earlier.
is. Sometimes people get reappointed whether they want it or not.
And we have one member that is running for LJ City Council,
Wow.
which would take him off the board.
So currently what you're seeing here is just as the members stand and what their education requirements are. Like with the staffing, I try to every year, you know, pick, you know, places that are as close as possible, you know, to help with that expensive, you know, hotels and everything. Unfortunately, though, and Bill can tell you, most of these classes end up in South Georgia, so.
I don't understand, ACCG classes, they love South Georgia. I don't understand.
I would be happy to go to that, but I went to Moultrie, Albany,
Hey, I used to have to go to Macon and it's,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to rather go.
Cordell.
I'm gonna have to go to Macon.
So I try to, you know.
I've seen some of those places
Yeah.
for classes.
So I try to, you know, with the education, and of course, because we have to maintain, you know, our appraisers and 40 hours every 2 years. So I try to alternate out everybody, and I try to do that with the board members to make sure that they're staying up to date, but also trying to help find them better locations than South Georgia as well, so.
Well, I've got to go to Athens here in a couple of weeks for a class. I tend to get just a little bit of static when I go there.
I can't imagine why. Will you be at the Classic Center?
I think that's where it is.
We're moving to the Classic Center because we've outgrown our Carl Vinson Institute. So with Caveat, they typically have plus or minus 500 people in attendance between office staff and Board of Assessor members. So we'll actually be going to the Classic Center next year. That'll be our first year at the Classic Center.
Carleen, didn't you went to the new commissioner just last year, right? Last December. And I think in every other year they do that.
gosh, they don't do it every year?
I think it's every other year. That's what I was thinking, it was every other year or something. If so, we're gonna have a new commissioner that'll have to wait a year. But if I recall, that's what happened with Dallas. He had to wait a year.
It's kind of better to renew it because they're only 1 year. Ish.
Yeah, that's true.
Depending on who. I've heard some.
All of which has nothing to do with
Doesn't.
subject and
I mean, if
We
they.
got
Okay, anything else I can answer for you?
I'm good.
Okay, I appreciate y'all's time and
Thank you.
consideration, and
Thank
if
you.
there's any questions along the way, please let me know.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Or an important part of the team. We appreciate it very much.
We're where the money comes from.
Yeah.
remember, Charlotte, we gotta keep those people paid so they can bring them in.
Remember, Bill, there's no such thing as a one-term board member.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.
You too.
We have the sheriff next.